Hi, in this lecture I'm going to show you how to download and install the Salesforce Data Loader. Now currently I'm logged in as a training user who's been assigned a standard user profile. Now to start, click on the Setup. In the Quick Find, type in Data Loader. And what you'll see is that nothing appears on the left-hand side. Now the reason for this is that the training user has been assigned a standard user profile that does not have the modify all data permissions assigned to it. So this user cannot download the data loader. But let's log in as a system administrator, Max Trainer. And in the quick find box, type in data loader. And what you'll see is that on the left-hand side, the data loader appears. Click on the data loader. And what you'll see are two options in the middle of the screen. One is to download the data loader for Windows or download the data loader for Mac. And in this case, we're going to download the data loader for Windows. So I'll click on the link. Once it's downloaded, this is the data loader setup. To continue, click on I agree. And there are two options on the screen. One to install it for a single user or all users, and I typically install it for all users, but you have the option to do either one. Then when you're ready, click Next. And there are several options on the screen. One in particular is the samples. I want to install in the samples. Click on Next, accept the default destination, and click on Install. Voila, installation's complete. Click on Next. And if you'd like to launch the data loader, select the box. It's checked right now, so I'll click on Finish and launch the data loader. Voila, welcome to the data loader. Now here are a few key takeaways. You cannot download the data loader without the modify all permissions set at the profile level. But you can run the data loader. Now you can run the data loader in the context of the running user. For example, you can only access objects you have permissions to. Hi, in this lecture I'm going to show you how to export data using the Salesforce Data Loader. Now currently I'm logged in as the training user that has been assigned a standard user profile. To begin, select the Export button, select Accounts, click on Next, select all fields, and click on Finish. And there you have it. In this case, we were not able to successfully extract any records for the system. And the reason is that the training user doesn't own any records in Salesforce. There's 12 records currently, but we weren't able to extract any. So let's go find out why this occurred. Now I'm currently logged in as Max Trainer, who is the system administrator. What we're going to do is go look at the training user profile. And indeed, the training user is using a standard user profile. And notice one thing. The modify all data permissions has not been selected for the standard user profile. This explains why the standard training user was not able to download the data loader. Now here we are at the Accounts permissions, and what we notice is that this profile does have the ability to read, create, edit, and delete records on this object. However, this doesn't explain what just happened. So let's hop over to their organizational wide defaults. To do that, type in sharing. And what you'll notice immediately is that the accounts and contracts are set to private. So let's change that and make it public read write. Now, before you do that, I want you guys to understand that I'm doing this just for training purposes, and don't do this in your organization. Be very careful when you do that. I'll show you why the minute I click on save. There are some sharing rules that will be recalculated in the background that might take a significant amount of time. So just be aware of that. Now, Salesforce is going to send you an email when the operation is complete. So now let's go back and try to export some records. Select all fields and click on Finish. And what you'll notice is that we were able to extract 12 records from the system, and that's how many accounts we have. So click on OK. Now let's shake things up a bit. I'm going to log in as Max Trainer again, and I'm going to undo what I just did because that's not very good practice. Click on Save. And what I'm going to do is on this account called Edge Communications, I'm going to share it with my training user. And you'll notice that in this case, it's only read only. And that's okay. Now I'm going to go back to Export, Account, click on Next, select all fields, click on Finish. And we were able to extract one record. Okay, that's good. That's what we expected. So I'm going to log back in as the training user, and I'm going to undo this. I'm going to remove the sharing on this record. And I'm going to make the training user the owner of this record. Now let's try to export the accounts out again. And we should see one record. Voila. We were able to extract one record. Now I'll log back in as the training user. I'll click on Accounts, and I'll select All Accounts. And you'll notice down on the right-hand side that indeed I am, well, not me, but the training user is the owner of this record. Hi, in this lecture, I'm going to show you how to insert records using the Salesforce Data Loader. Now, I'm currently logged in as a training user that has been assigned a standard user profile. To begin, click on the Insert button. I'm going to select Account, and I'm going to browse to my insert file, which I already have prepared. Click on Next. And what you'll see is we have 423 records, incidentally, that were installed using the samples option when I installed the data loader. I'll click on OK. Click on Create or Edit a Map. And I'm going to auto match my fields to columns. And one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the owner ID, and I'm not going to insert an owner ID. When it's blank, the owner ID automatically defaults to the running user, which that is going to be the training user. Also, I want to point out that Oracle ID is an external ID, and we'll talk about that a little bit more as we go along. So when you're ready, click on OK, click on Next, and select an export directory where you want the output files to go. And I'll just put that on my desktop for now. And then I'm going to click on Finish. Voila! And there you have it. 423 records were successfully inserted with 0 errors. Awesome. Click on OK. Now I'm going to log in as the training user. And let's go see what came in as far as my accounts are concerned. And you'll notice on the right hand side, I am the user and the owner of these records. But also, you'll notice that there's a few weird things going on here with regards to the account name. So one thing I did not do is I did not dedupe or check the data before importing. So I can't stress this enough. When you're importing data, especially thousands and thousands of records, I typically upload a sample of maybe 10 to see how that goes before I do a full run. So basically it's a test run. And in this case, like I said, I didn't dedupe or check my data. And so now I'm just going to have to undo what I just did. So to do that, I'm going to delete the data that I just imported. Now I'm going to do that using the file, the export file that was downloaded to my desktop. Actually, those are the successful records. And we'll show that to you in a separate lecture. So that concludes this lecture. Thank you. In this lecture, I'm going to show you how to delete records using the Salesforce Data Loader. Now, if you recall from our previous lecture, I showed you how to insert accounts. However, we did not dedupe or look at our data before we did that. So now we're going to delete them. What we're looking at here is the success file that was outputted or saved as a consequence of our insert. What I'm going to do is to delete these columns and only use the ID field to delete the records that were inserted. I'll save this out. Now we'll select the delete button, click on accounts, and I'll go find the file I just saved. Click on next. It says it contains 423 records, which is correct. Click on create or edit map. Click on auto match fields to columns since there's only an ID field in this file. Click on OK. Click on next. And we're going to save it to our desktop. Then click on finish. And there you have it. 423 records were successfully deleted. Now in the background, I'm logged in as the training user, so I'm going to refresh my accounts, and I should only have one, and that's correct. That concludes this lecture. Thank you. Hi. In this lecture, I'm going to show you how to upsert records using the Salesforce Data Loader. Now I'm currently logged in as the training user, and you can see that I can actually see two records. One, which is the Burlington Textile Corp of America that I don't own, but it's shared, and Edge Communications, which I do own. So what I'm going to do, in order to prep my upsert file, I'm just going to download these two accounts. Next. I want to select the name, the account site, and the Oracle ID. So I'll click on Finish, and there we have it. Now here's the extract file that we just downloaded. You notice the two accounts. What I'm going to do is update the site for both accounts. And I'm going to create a new account. Now once I've completed this, I'm going to go ahead and save this to my desktop. Contains 3 records. Click on OK. What I'm going to do is match. Instead of using ID, I'm going to match using the external ID called Oracle ID. Now the reason is that if you noticed in the file that I just created for upserting, I'm inserting a new account, and I don't know what the ID of that record is because it doesn't exist. So I need something else, and in this case I'm going to use the external ID to insert. I'm going to click on Next. So I don't have a parent for the account object. I'm not going to select anything there. Click on Next and create an edit map. Click on that button. And now click on the auto match field to columns. And you notice they automatically map. So I'll click on OK. Click on Next. And I'll save the output to my desktop. When you're done, click on Finish. And you'll notice that 2 were successfully upserted and we have 1 error. So let's see what happened here. Let's click on Errors. And you'll notice that the Burlington Corp, I could not update site because I have insufficient rights. So meaning that this is a shared account and it was probably shared as read-only. So I don't have rights to update that. But let's look at the successes. So I was able to update the edge communication, and I was able to create, if you'll notice right here it says item created, item updated. I was able to create the training account. So I'll click on Close, click on OK. Now in the background, I'm going to refresh my accounts. And you'll notice that the training account is now there and the site has been updated, as well as the edge communication account. And nothing was done to the Burlington Textile Corp. And that's it. Pretty easy upserting records into Salesforce, but I would be cautious. Typically, I'll do a test sample to make sure that my records are being updated and the ones I want inserted are being inserted. So be very careful. Thank you. Hi, in this lecture, I'm going to explain what an external ID field is and when it can be used. An external ID is a custom field that has an external ID attribute to it, meaning that it contains a unique record identifier from a system outside of Salesforce. It could be, for example, Oracle. In the user interface, you can identify up to 7 custom fields on an object as being an external ID field. And the field type must be an email, number, or text field. I usually think of it as ENT. Other folks remember it as TEN, meaning or 10. In any case, you need to know what field type to use when creating an external ID, and your options are limited to 3. Now you can match against this field during import or integration, or when using the upsert call, as we saw in our previous lecture. Also, external ID fields are indexed, so selective filters on them should run very quickly. Here's an example. Now, we used a field called Oracle ID to upsert records in our previous lecture. And all it is a link to an Oracle account to the Salesforce account. Now, here's an example of the actual field on the account object. And you'll notice in the middle of the page, I have selected the Do Not Allow Duplicates checkbox. And there are 2 options beneath that. Either to treat capital ABC and lowercase abc as duplicate values, meaning treat them as case insensitive, or you can actually select the other option, which is case sensitive. In any case, you'll need to understand the data types coming in from your external system and select these options appropriately. Hi, in this lecture I'm going to show you how to insert records into Salesforce using the Salesforce Data Loader with fields that are required. Now I'm logged in as the system administrator at the account layout page, and I'm going to make the account site a required field. Click on OK, and click on Save. Now I'm going to log out and log in as the training user, and that was pretty quick, but here we are. I'm the training user, and you'll notice that there are 2 accounts in the system. So with the data loader, click on Insert, Account, and I have a file already prepared with 2 accounts in it. I'm going to click on Next, and here we go. Click on OK, Auto Match Fields to Columns, remove the owner ID, and click on OK. When you're completed with that, click on Next, and save the output file to the desktop. Click on Finish. And now you'll notice that the 2 records were successfully inserted: American Dollar and High Desert Information Technologies. But the interesting twist to this is that I did not supply the required fields, which in this case were account site. So how was I able to insert 2 new records given that the account site is a required field? Now what you can see is that I can't save the record. So I'm going to cancel this out. Now I'm logged in as Max Trainer, the system administrator. And he's going to make things right here. So let's look at the account site. Why couldn't we make this a required field? Well, this is a standard field, but Salesforce won't allow me to make it required. That's interesting, right? Okay, well, I'll tell you what. I'll pick another field to make required. So I'll come down to the number of locations, and I'll make this one a required field. Obviously, it's a custom field, so I'll do that. And I'll click on Confirm and save my changes. So now I have 2 required fields: account site and the number of locations. So now you'll see I still have 2 accounts. Now I'm going to insert 2 accounts. Click on next, change 2 records, great. Auto match my fields, remove the owner ID, click on OK. When you're ready, click on next. And I'm going to save it to my desktop. Click on finish. And you'll notice that we got 2 errors this time. Well, I didn't supply the number of locations field, so this is what's going to happen. Okay. But what about the account site? Nothing happened with that. So I'll click on close. Now I'm going to insert 2 accounts with the number of locations field values that are included. Click on auto match my columns, remove the owner ID, click on OK. Click on next and I'll save it to my desktop. Click on yes, and guess what? We were able to insert the records. Let's click on OK. In the background, I'm going to refresh my accounts, and there you have it. I was able to insert my American Dollar account and my High Desert Information Technology account. And guess what? Account site is still required. Now here are a few key takeaways from our previous lecture. Making a standard field required on the page layout will not deny you the ability to insert records, granted that you have user permission rights to do so. Now I'll repeat that again. Making a standard field required on the page layout will not deny you the ability to insert records, and we saw that in our previous lecture. And please, 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 please consider this next time you create a validation rule or a workflow. Hi, this lecture builds on a previous lecture in which we tried to insert accounts having the account site as required on the page layout. In this lecture, I'm going to create a validation rule and then show you how the system reacts when we insert records. So here we are with the validation rule I've created. I'll click on Edit, scroll down, I put the description in there. You cannot save a record unless the site is filled in, and the validation rule simply checks to see if the site is not blank. And I've got an error message here that'll pop up. Dude, your account site cannot be blank. And I'll place the message right next to the account site field, and I'll click on Save. Now I'll log out as the system administrator and log back in as a training user. And wow, that was fast. Click on my Accounts tab, refresh that, and I see 2 accounts. So here we go. I'll try to insert 2 accounts that I've prepared in a CSV file here. Click on Next, and we're about to insert 2 records. I'll do a Create Edit Map, match fields to columns, and remove the owner ID, because I want only records. Click on OK, click on Next, and we're going to save it to the desktop. Click on Yes, and we were not able to insert these records. And the reason is my CSV file did not include sites in that file. So let's close this out, click on OK, and I'm going to go ahead and grab a different file that actually has account site in them. So I'll click on Next. About to insert 2 records. I'm going to auto match my columns, remove my owner ID, click on OK, click on Next, save to the desktop, click on Finish. And voila, we were able to successfully insert 2 records. Now on the back end, we'll be able to see that indeed the 2 accounts were created. Hi, here are a few key takeaways you need to keep in mind. Unlike setting a field as required on the page layout, you cannot escape validation rules when inserting or upserting records. Now, we saw this in our previous lecture when we made the account site required on the page layout. However, we were still able to insert records. Well, the bad news is with validation rules, you have to satisfy your validation rules when inserting records. So review all validation rules on the object you're attempting to alter. An example, insert or upsert any records. Now the good news is that the data loader will continue the insert/upsert process when it encounters an error. In other words, it will not roll back all the changes that you've made. So just keep that in mind. Hi, in this lecture, I'm going to show you how to insert records using the Salesforce Data Loader. However, in this lecture, I'm going to create a workflow rule on the account site. Now I'm logged in as Max Trainer, who's a system administrator. Now this is the workflow rule. You'll notice that it'll only fire when the account site is equal to Texas. I'll click on Save. And it's actually going to send out an email alert when records are inserted that contain Texas. So I'm going to log out and log back in as the training user. And wow, that was fast. I'll click on accounts to view my accounts, and currently I only have 2 accounts. So I'll click on Insert Account. I'll go look for my Insert Account file. Click on Next. It contains 2 records. Create Edit Map. Click on Auto Match Fields, and I'll remove Owner ID because I want to be the owner of these records. Click on OK. Click on Next, and I'll save it to my desktop. Click on Finish. And voila, successfully inserted 2 records. Now I just got 1 email. I was expecting 2. That's interesting. Okay, well let's go back and let's check. Let's refresh Salesforce. And immediately I see that one of the records had Texas as the account site and the other had Nevada. So that explains why. Now here are some key takeaways when inserting or upserting records using the Salesforce Data Loader. Review all your workflows when inserting or upserting records. And pay close attention to email alerts. Now, I got to tell you, one time I inserted 800 records and a workflow rule kicked off, and a certain group got 800 emails, and they weren't very happy with that. So I learned from that, and I had to, every time I insert records, I review the workflow rules to see if there are any workflow rules that have email alerts. I try to disable them. Hi, in this lecture I'm going to show you how to upload attachments to Salesforce using the Salesforce Data Loader. Now here are some guidelines. Number 1, confirm that the CSV file you intend to use for attaching imports contains the following required columns: parent ID, name, and body. Now in this example, the Salesforce ID or parent record we're going to use is actually the Edge communication account. The name of the file attachments is going to be EdgeCom, and I'll show you that in a minute. And the body is the absolute path to the attachment on your local drive. Now ensure that these values in the body column contains the full file name to the attachment that exists on your computer. Your CSV file might look like this. As you'll notice, the parent ID is of the Edge communication account, the name of the file, and the full path to the file. And my CSV contains this information and only contains one record. Number 2, proceed with an insert or update operation. At the Select Data Object step, make sure you select Show All Salesforce Object checkbox and the attachment object name in the list. And I'll show you that in our example shortly. Now here we are. Click on the Insert button. Select Show All Salesforce Objects and select the attachment. Now I've chosen the CSV file we're going to upload. It contains one record. Click on the Edit Map and choose Auto Match your fields to columns. Click on OK. Click on Next. And I'm going to drop the output file to my desktop. Click on Finish. And there you have it. One record was successfully inserted. So I'm logged in as a training user on the Edge communication account record. I'm going to refresh it. And notice the attachment came in. Let's click on View, and there you have it. There's the PNG file. Thank you very much. Hi. This is the last lecture of the Data Loader series. Now currently I'm logged in as Max Trainer, the system administrator, and we're looking at the company information page. We're looking at the data space, file space, and API requests before inserting 431 records and one attachment. Now after inserting these 431 accounts, attachments, and API requests, you'll notice that our data space increased, our file space increased, and our API requests also increased by 4. Now I'll show you the breakdown here in a second. Data space results. There were 431 records, reduced my storage space by 17%. That's about 0.82 megabytes per 431 records. Since my total storage limit for this dev org is about 5 megabytes, I'd probably hit my limit with approximately 2,628 records. It's not a whole lot. So here's a tip. Before doing a mass insert, update, run a small sample, and manually calculate your space usage. Now here are the results for my file space usage. Now one single attachment reduced my total storage space by 5%. In this case, my file size was 1.1 megabytes. I realize that file sizes may vary, but the total file storage limit for this dev org is 20 megabytes. So I'd probably hit my limit at approximately 15 files of the same size. So here's a tip. Before doing a mass attachment, run a small sample and manually calculate your space usage. Now here are the API requests, and they're actually categorized within the last 24 hours. The data loader is set to load records in a batch of 200. Now you can change that, but the default is 200. So for the first 200 records that we inserted, cost me one API request. For the second 200 was another API request, and the last 31 was one API request. So a total of 431 records and 3 API requests. Now that last record, or the last 31 records, I could have uploaded 200, but since I only uploaded 31, it cost me an API request. Now also the attachment that I uploaded, since it was a single attachment, it cost me an API request. So the bottom line is that there were a total of 4 API requests out of the 15,000 max. Now, why is this important? Well, in some organizations where you're using the API requests, every 10 seconds or so, you can exhaust your API limits very quickly. So you need to understand your limits within Salesforce and understand how the data loader works in that context.